Hello everyone, welcome back to Heavenly Enlightened episode 5 part 2. As you can see, we're not holding our mics, and that's because partially our mics died, and if you hear background music, my neighbors are playing loud music. So please bear with us. I'm going to try my hardest to up-tune our voice a little bit more and try to drown out the background. Yes, so we talked about, if you missed episode 5 first part, please go watch that because it's a lot of crucial details that you'll miss, especially if we're going back to diving back into the DV situation. Episode 1, we talked about just your DV relationship, how you get into it, how'd you meet him,
the background
of him, everything. So part 2 is basically, how did you get out of that DV relationship?
So there was different parts. Like in the first part of episode 5, last week's video, we had covered certain like myths and truths.
Yes.
And I think one of them was it takes a person 7 times.
Yes, 7 to 10 attempts. So the myth, if you missed it, was if they go back, they don't really want help. So the truth was, leaving often takes survivors 7 to 10 attempts.
And at least in my situation, I tend to leave mentally, emotionally, and then physically. So I would say during those attempts,
Okay, so you said that mentally, emotionally, and then physically you left. So what was happening during that mindset? Because we didn't touch base on it last episode, but you did leave many times. You would stay at our aunt's house, and then we'd think this was the last time that you were going back, and then you would go back. So you were doing just like the statistic was, that you would leave and then you would go right back. You would leave and you go right back. So physically, at times you did leave, but what allowed you to connect all three, I guess? What did it take?
So I would say like mentally, I'm gonna say it like this. I feel like there's when it comes to detaching, when it comes to breaking up with that person, there's different levels to it, is the best way I could describe it.
Okay.
I have a couple writings that I wanted to share to better help the audience understand, like, where I was at mentally, what I mean when I say, like, mentally I was detaching, then emotionally, and then physically.
Okay.
So I have 2.
This will put us as viewers, first and foremost, like, into that perspective of what you were feeling, and allow us to gain, like, more insight. I like how you said that there's levels to leaving.
Yeah.
So please read us, and I'm going to be researching a little bit about those levels, because now I'm like, what kind of levels?
So this first one that I'll share, this is one that I wrote to myself. Like I said in the last video, I didn't have friends, I had family, but I wasn't supported, or like it wasn't a healthy relationship. And then the only relationship that I did have that was like maybe a day-to-day was his mom's, which, like I said, she was in that mindset of being in those cycles was normal to her. She didn't ever get told otherwise.
And that's where trauma bonding was mentioned in last episode.
So in this one, I had written to myself, so I was like, "Dear Wendy, you've already been through so much in the timing of 3 months." So what I mean by 3 months is from the time I moved in. So it was probably July, August, September, like September when I wrote this.
Okay.
So I said, you've already been through so much in the timing of 3 months. You need to understand that this will only continue. You deserve more. You deserve happiness. You are deserving of everything you give people. It's not too much. It's just they don't want to or are not willing to be or do that for you. And you have to learn to accept that. People don't love you or people don't like... Sorry.
She was going through it, okay?
No, I read that wrong. The words just moved in front of my eyes. People don't love you. What the heck? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Okay.
Okay.
These getting twisted. People don't love like you do, and they don't go by the rules you go by. You're hurting, and that's okay. Just breathe and let it out. You're a smart girl, and you got this. You have 2 ways out, but the question is, are you wanting that for yourself? You know you can't change him, and you know he'll regret it when you're gone. But that doesn't matter. What matters is you, so put yourself first. He told you with his words that he does not love you, over and over along with his actions. He's broken you with the heartless things he says to you. For God's sakes, he's looked you into your eyes and told you he didn't love you. What more do you need? A person that you've given your everything to looks at you with nothing. You fight so hard and sacrifice everything for a person who gives you nothing. Is that what you want? No, you want better for yourself, Wendy, so do better.
So I hear you mentally, like, really fighting yourself. Like, I feel like you were physically trying to write exactly what you were feeling, but correct me if I'm wrong, that even after you wrote that, you didn't leave.
No.
And you talked about stages in leaving a DB, relationships. There's 6 stages, according to, like, the research.
Before you say yours, I want to say my stages. In this particular part, I feel like there's a difference between understanding and accepting. Understanding is being aware of what's going on, what's happening, you know, seeing things for what it is. And accepting it is learning how to be okay with this and staying, or how to be okay with the situation and choosing to leave. So to me, it was, in this part and in the other writing I'll share, it was more so of me being understanding of the situation, of how I was getting taken advantage of how I was getting pennies and crumbs and giving my everything and sacrificing everything. What are the 7?
The 6.
Oh, the 6.
Denial or minimization. So the survivor may not recognize the abuse as abuse and justifies the abuser's behavior or blames themselves. Believes things will get better if it's a one-time thing. Stage 2, awareness and acknowledgement. Starts to realize the relationship is unhealthy or dangerous. May research abuse or confide in someone they trust. And an emotional conflict, love or hope versus fear and hurt. Stage 3, planning and preparation. Quietly begins to gather resources, money, documents, contacts, seeks information on shelters, legal help, support services, may hide essentials or set up a safe word with a friend. 4, attempting to leave. Makes the first attempt to leave or set boundaries. May return to the abuser due to threats, manipulation, or lack of support. This stage may repeat it several times before they permanently leave. Stage 5, leaving for good. Physically separates from the abuser, often with help. May relocate, enter a shelter, or file legal protections. Safety is still a concern during this stage. And lastly, stage 6, recovery and rebuilding. Begins healing emotionally and mentally. May enter therapy, support groups, or focus on rebuilding life and identity, and relearns trust, independence, and healthy boundaries. So, hearing you say that there's different stages, hearing you say the writing that you wrote yourself during, I would presume, is like a time where maybe something went wrong, and you're starting to like maybe realize something in the back of your head?
I know that in one of these two writings, I think it's the next one that I read.
Okay.
Yeah, there was situations that were happening. There was like triggers.
Okay.
But I think this one in specific, I remember sitting outside, like in front of the apartment and writing it, and just feeling like heavy.
Okay.
Because like I said, like they'll become, at least for me, he became so creative with the way that it kind of felt at times where it's like, well, I already told you I don't love you. I already told you I don't want you and you're here. So I'm going to treat you like whatever because I'm kind of tired of you. That's what it was feeling like at times. And in my head, I just couldn't understand. Like, you just go from hot and cold and love to hate and distant to close. Like, but I was becoming aware. And I feel like that's when I had stepped outside and wrote it. But as far as the other one that I want to get into, that one, the title has a little story on its own. And it goes back to what I said about them being creative with their ways of, like, telling you. Like I said, in that first one, I stated, like, he's already looked me in my eyes and told me, I don't want you, I don't love you, X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And even that direct message to me didn't hit. Like, it hit, but it wasn't enough because I was so, like, I was just so, like, confused. Like, what did I do wrong? And I was just focused on what did I do, and there was nothing.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Like, you're saying over here, like, maybe so that, like, I'm thinking, like, because I've never been in a DV relationship, but I know a lot of viewers don't really understand DV. And again, I'm just going to preface this by saying, please have some patience with us. Our mics did die, and my neighbors are playing music. So, but I have a question. Like, you're writing this to yourself.
Yeah.
You're obviously, there's some part of you that's like starting to connect that this isn't okay. Mm-hmm. Why do DV victims stay, I guess? Like, why didn't you writing this, like, you basically wrote a letter to yourself. Mm-hmm. So why didn't you, after reading that, like, why didn't you leave? Like, what went through your head after writing that?
It was more so comfort for me because, like I said, I didn't have an outlet, and the only outlet I had was, if you could see through my writing, I've always had a good head over my shoulders. Mm-hmm. But, like, you can tell, like, I'm not, in my writings, I'm not victimizing myself. Mm-hmm. I'm realizing what I'm tolerating. I'm seeing what I'm doing and what I'm getting out of it. And that outlet I had was the opposite. It was very, like, well, you forgave him, so you need to forget. Or, oh, it was just one time, like, or that's just meant, like, the mindset of that outlet that I was having and me, two different people. So I didn't feel safe with him, with his mom. So I was writing it more so for myself to clear my brain. Because sometimes you just need to hear it. Sometimes you need to hear yourself give that advice. And at that time, that's what I thought. So I did it. And I remember even after writing it, it was just like, it really sunk in that I wasn't here because I was forced. I was here because I'm choosing. And I feel like after I wrote that, I got up and I remember walking back to the apartment and just like basically like taking it on the chin. Like, I already knew, like, after writing, like, I know what I'm walking into, and I'll do it for love. Like, that's what it was.
All right, so share with us the second thing that you wrote to yourself and the backstory, because you've shared this with me. And the title of it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Y no te confundas.
Yeah.
So what is that? And what is si no te confundas? What does that translate to in English?
So it's not si, it's y. Y no te confundas means and don't get it confused.
Okay. Y no te confundas.
So the story with that, and I put it in quotes because that was a direct line from him. He was in the kitchen, and like I said, like, there was moments, it was so hot and cold, so on and off, where like I said, we would be dancing in the living room to a song, like slow dancing, like movie, like just love and everything's beautiful. And then it would be like I said, because he had already been so upfront and raw with the I don't want you, like I don't, and making it feel like, oh, it's because you don't do this, or because, like, you know, like I was picking myself apart. And so after we had like a somewhat good day, he was in the kitchen, and like I went up to him to talk to him or something, and he basically looked at me and he was like what are you doing here or something like that. And I was like, well, what do you mean I live here? And then something along the lines of him ending up saying like, y no te confundas, don't get it confused, like you're here because you want to be here, not because like we're together. So when he said that, I was just kind of like, wow, like again, they become so creative with the way like they tell you. They're telling you. It's just different ways, actions, words, whatever they will tell you. So I was like the story with the title, and it stuck to me because I was like, damn. Because like I said, I already knew after writing the first one, like I knew what I was walking into myself. And he was just kind of like reiterating that, like, don't get it confused. You're here because you want to be, not because I want you to be here.
Wow.
So,
that's deep. All right, so share it with us because that was very deep in itself.
So the writing itself is, you're right. You never asked me to stay, but I did. You never asked me to trust you with everything in me, but I did. You never asked me to move on and choose to believe you, but I did. You never asked me to invite you to my grandmother's house to meet my family, but I did. You never asked me to build a world around you, but I did. You never asked me to love you, but stupidly, I did. And you were right. You don't owe me nothing. I chose to stay willingly. I chose to run back willingly. I chose to accept everything you were and to love that person, and I tried. You bring out the worst in me. You push me to the edge every day. You make me doubt myself and my worth. You crush my world with your words. I may not know who I am at this very moment, but I know that I'll find her again. It might take time, but that Wendy will shine through it all. She will be strong, and she will learn from her mistakes that she went through with you. I may not have all the answers, but that's okay. There's people who love me like you never knew how. You were my karma. You showed me how a lie could kill someone from the inside out. You showed me how fast someone can lose themselves trying to learn to love another. As much as all this may be strange to you, I'm forever grateful for that lesson. I'm forever grateful for this experience that I went through with you. It hurts to think of the good because that's what I thought you were. I would think of all the good, and every time I did, I would put a blindfold on to cover all the wrongs that you were doing since the beginning. I don't have to cut ties with you physically because I know, and I came to the conclusion that that doesn't work for me. I release you from my heart. I release you from any spiritual and emotional ties. I don't want you. You, as in everything you stand for, everything you are. I've never been alone, but I've always wanted to be independent and happy. Something that would have been impossible with you in my life. I have a lot to prove, and I'm going to use this as a chapter I'll always remember, but I'll never return to live or entertain again. God has so much for me.
That was powerful, sister. And I just, even, like, people could see it, obviously hear it in your voice, see it through camera, like the emotion that you carry. There's something that you said in there that this version of you isn't you. Like, that isn't Wendy. I wish I could have saved that picture. But when you had left this one time to our aunt's house, you know, when you were leaving, our aunt had snapped a picture of Wendy and had sent it to my mom and me. And when I tell you that that line hit me so deeply, because when I saw that picture, it was like the joy of who you were was completely drained. Like the light, like she's pale, but she was so pale. She had no light like behind her eyes. She was zoned out that she didn't even know that our Tia had taken a picture of her. Her hair was like not a mess, but like it was just like put up quickly. She just looked like her hands were tucked in her sweater. She just looked so zoned out. So
I had a sweater.
Yeah, it was just like hearing you say that Wendy that you see wasn't you, and that you'll eventually find your way back to her. Because the Wendy that we knew prior to him was bubbly. She was, like you said in episode 1, you were the first one to go and make friends. You were the first one to introduce yourself, introduce that new student.
To be that light in people's day. Like, that was me. Like, I was known for that.
Exactly. And then once you met him, it completely deteriorated you. You completely turned. You were suddenly... we talked about this time and time again, like, in our own... personal conversations. Suddenly you were experiencing things that you didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
So tell me, after you wrote this about yourself, was this the letter to yourself again that made you leave, or did you still stay?
Even after that, I still stayed. It got to the point, I had 2 moments where I was like set. So on leaving, one of them being that, and this was the first one, I had like I said, I was living with him, and I had one best friend that would come around ever so often, and me and him had broken up, and he had left, and so I had invited her over. We were talking, we were eating. She was in my room, she was in my room. We were just eating snacks. There was like snacks on the bed and stuff, and I hear a knock. So I'm hearing knocks. And one thing too is like he would do this high power thing where he would be like, oh, I'm gonna leave you, and because I feel so sorry for you, you can stay here until the end of the month, and then you gotta find a place to go. So just background.
So a power trip again.
Yeah. Using his resources, what he had to put over my head. Yeah. So he had left. He came back. He was knocking on the door. He was pounding on the door, and I wasn't trying to open the door because I was already, like I said, I was already detached mentally. I was still working on the emotional part, and so he's like banging on the door, and I take a while because I was fighting with myself. Like, do I let him in? If I don't, like, is he gonna get crazy? I have my friend in here. I already knew what he was capable of, so I was like, I don't want to put her in harm's way. Boom, I let him in. She goes into the living room.
Okay. So you guys are in the bedroom now?
Yeah, so now it's me and him in the bedroom.
Okay.
And mind you, like I said, we had just finished eating. Like, we were snacking, we were talking, we were venting, so there were snacks on the bed. And this man is so insecure that on top of me not being allowed to have guy friends, being around guys, all that, he had a thing where, and honestly, I've met numerous people that have been in domestic violent relationships, and we all share the same thing. I don't know if he genuinely thought I was attracted to the same sex, or like I said, it's just one of those things that all of them use. Because like I said, the amount of friends or people I know that have said the same thing, like that their partner accused them of like, oh, well, now you're gay, so now you can't have any friends. Like, no female, no male. And that leaves you completely isolated, and if you listen to them, then they win. You have no family, no friends, no female, no male, no nothing, they win. So with me, he was basically saying like, oh, it's very suspicious that you and her were here alone and you took so long. Why did y'all take so long? And I'm like, do you not see the snacks? Do you not see that we're off the wake up? Like, I'm confused.
Mm-hmm.
And he got upset and he started attacking, I guess is the word. While we're in the room, my friend is in the living room, but the door is kind of cracked in our room. So she can see what's going on inside. From her point of view, she had seen him, like I said, like he was, I don't want to be too descriptive, but she had seen him like choke me. And that scene alone frightened her. She came in and she was like basically like yelling at him, being loud, and was telling him like, let her go, like, we're Wendy, get your stuff and we're leaving, like, we're leaving, or you get out, if not I'm calling the police. Like, it was very like, get out, let Wendy get out, or I'm calling the police. So, and this was the first time he had been abusive in front of someone. I could say she was the only individual that ever saw the abuse happen like live. So after that, I grabbed all my stuff, we left, and as we're going to the car, she's like asking me like, oh, are you okay, oh my god, Wendy, are you okay? And she was like panicking, and I was like, in my head, honest to God, I was just like, this is a regular Tuesday, Wednesday for me, like. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like, in my head, okay, I was already like, you're
overreacting?
Second guessing, like, was it really that bad? Like, because like I said, that to me was like a regular Tuesday. Like, oh, he's upset. And like I said, like, from what she had seen, he had just put his hands like around my neck. But that was it. So to me, it was really like maybe a 2 out of 10. So I asked her, I was like, hey, like, I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not trying to even, like, have you feel pity. But, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad was that? And she looked at me, and I am forever grateful for her for this reason. She looked at me, and she was like, are you crazy? Like, are you okay? Like, you're really asking me this right now? And I was like, well, yeah, like, what was it? And she was like, Wendy, like, he hit you, he choked you, he put his hands on you, he yelled at you, he put fear, like, and she looked at me and she was like, if you really think that this is okay, you need therapy.
What a good friend right there.
Yes.
Hard pill to swallow. Hearing that from your friend, what was going through your head?
It was just like I said, it was like a shock. Like, it was almost like I could say she took the blindfold off of me, but that still wasn't enough for me to leave. She was the one that made me realize.
So did she unloosen the blindfold a little bit?
No, I could say she took off my blindfold.
Okay.
And I was the one to put the shoes on and leave. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Oh, I like those analogies. Yeah. Okay.
Because with her, like I said, like, it was me hearing her, seeing her fear, like...
Yeah.
Like, that has to be some stuff if a person that wasn't even involved, touched, is reacting in a way as if it was her. You know what I mean? Maybe she's been through experiences like that. Maybe it triggered her and she, like, relived it, you know? But just to see her like that, and like I said, like, I'm so grateful that she was very honest. And I know that it came from a good place, like... Maybe to y'all it's a little bit harsh, but my friendships with my, like, the closest people, 9 times out of 10 they tend to be blunt, because I don't want a yes man. I don't want you to sit in my face and throw me a pity party. Tell me what it is when I need to hear it. Be a friend when I need it. You know what I mean? And that's what she was. So after that was just a moment of realization. I didn't leave. Moving forward to where I actually left, like I said, like, I put my shoes on, fastened them, and I was gone, was in his line of work. Well, before I do that, I was so low. Like I said, I had my best friend as a support, but it was embarrassing. It gets to a point where you feel wrong for even saying anything. because you sit there and you tell your friends, or you sit there, you tell your family, like, this and this is going on, and oh, I left him and I'm done with him, and oh, he got me messed up, but you take him back.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else happens, and then you go back, you're like, oh no, girl, like, I'm really done this time, like, he got me so messed up, he did X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But then you go back. So those cycles, and then, like I said, on top of it, it's self-judging when you're like, damn, like, I'm allowing this to happen to me, and this person knows that. And, like, for my best friend, like, she told me, she was like, Wendy, like, where's the Wendy I knew? Like, you wouldn't let nobody talk to you any type of way at school. Like, the guys, like, if they ever tried to flirt it or being disrespectful, like, you were on that. She was like, you were very sassy. Like, you just wouldn't allow a man to treat you this way. Like, what is going on? And it was by her kind of, like, reminding me that I was like, okay. But, moving forward, he, like I said, I didn't, because of that, because of those cycles, I wasn't even telling her anymore what was going on, because I felt embarrassed, and I felt like she was probably getting upset, because it's like, okay, well, you keep complaining, you keep saying this and this is happening, you're not going to go back, but you go back. So at that point, his mom became like my outlet more, and only because she was so close to like church and God.
Mm-hmm.
That lady is the only lady I know that will go into church at 12, 11 in the afternoon and won't come out till like 4 or 5, just praying her rosary, just praying. And she's very faithful, I'll give her that much. And it was because of that, I just felt like, I don't know, like, if she maneuvered the world in that way, in the similar situations, but she's so close to God, I don't know, I feel like she didn't do much good in my life, but she did help good come to me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
With that. So I became very spiritual. And I remember, like, I had this prayer, and I had asked, I was already on my lowest point. Like, I was already, like, if he leaves and we don't work out, like, I was already, like, then I'm done. Like, I don't have any purpose here. And I had prayed, and I was like, God, if I'm not strong enough to leave, take him. If I can't get myself up to leave this relationship and be strong enough to continue with no contact, with none of that, like, how, or help me by removing him. Because of his line of work, he started traveling to different states. Crazy, because again, he don't have no papers. What he's doing for work, that's what I said, his luck was not of God. But he started going to different states, and at that time, I kind of already knew when he was leaving. And I remember, like, leading up to those days, I was kind of, like, counting down the days, and that's when I kind of knew, like, mentally and emotionally I was checked out. Because I just couldn't wait for him to leave so that I could be physically alone. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, because at that point, you were already mentally and emotionally checked out.
Yeah.
It was just the physical that you just couldn't find.
I couldn't, yeah. And that's why I said, like, Lord, if I'm not strong enough, like, remove this person from me if I can't do it myself. And this was kind of, like, my testimony a little bit. I was watching this spiritual lady that would go live, like, every day around 2. And she was what I was looking forward to every day, because she was the light in my day. Like, she would remind me that everything would be fine just by watching her lives. It was just a distraction. And so this specific time, I was so low, so done. I remember I had asked God, I asked him the same prayer. I was like, Lord, like, I'm ready. Like, I just need guidance. Like I said, I didn't have anyone to guide me out of that relationship, to motivate me, to build me up. And those things are very important to have when you're leaving a relationship like that, because it feels like not only did my light get taken away while I was there, like, you know, in that relationship, but it's that whole thing of that we spoke about, I think, the last video of, like, it's like a drug. Like, you have withdrawals from this person, like the memories of the person and the guilt. Like, it's just so many things, and it's, you need to have good support, and I didn't have that. And I had prayed and I asked God, like, I'm ready, like, I just need guidance, like, guide me. I had also said to our father figure, our dad, I had said, Dad, I want to know and I want to make sure that you are, like, you have my back in this journey. Like, I'm ready to go on. I had prayed that, and as soon as I went into that lady's live, she would do, like, readings and on, like, tarot decks and stuff. And she said something about, and it gave me chills, because I had been watching this lady for like 2-3 months, and never ever did I ever hear her say these things. She had said something along the lines of, Spirit wants someone to know that in this next chapter, that, and she said it like this, that that Spirit has their back. And that's exactly what I had told my dad. I said, Dad, I want to know, because I already knew it was going to be scary. I already know how it was. I already know that I had tried and it had failed numerous times. Like, I need to know that you are with me no matter what. I'm not alone, and that you and God are guiding me. She had said that, and then she had also said that God, basically everything I prayed, she had answered. She had said that God is ready to take me, or to take us on a journey if we are willing. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that picture. I know it's very popular in, like, Hispanic household. The one where it's like a broken bridge, and there's little kids walking on it with the guardian angel.
Yes.
So if we can put a picture up, that's how I felt. Except
Ángel la guardia.
Yeah, I had felt that way. Except instead of the guardian angel, I felt that was God, and instead of there being 2 kids walking on the broken bridge, it was me. I felt like I was walking on that bridge. At the beginning of every piece was there, and then stuff was falling, and it was scary to look down, but, like, it really felt like when they say give your pains, your sorrows, your struggles to God and lay it at His feet, that feeling of, like, Him carrying me, Him guiding me out of that. Like, that's the support, the strength that I needed at that time. And thank God, like, even though I didn't have physical people there, spiritually, I've always been looked after. And sure enough, I made that prayer. Boom, the day came. He left. And exactly what I told God, I said, Lord, if I'm not strong enough, remove this person from me. And He did exactly that. He had a job to do for like a month and a half at a different state. And I already knew. Like, I'm not going to sit here. Like, I already knew I'm going to use your absence as a way to heal and as a way to detach from you. Because this is forced, and this is not my choice, but because it's forced, I have no other choice but to deal with it. You know what I mean? So he had moved, and we were in contact for maybe 2 days. And then after that, it was just kind of, it was done.
Wow. I liked how you said, obviously this podcast isn't spiritual, but we are very both big on our spirituality. And I just love the fact that you said that when you're at your most brokenness, when you feel like the world is completely crumbling at your feet, laying it down at the Lord's feet and giving it to Him is truly the most, like, when you are just at your lowest, He's there. Have you heard footprints in the sand?
No.
Oh my goodness. Therapy told me about footprints in the sand. I had never heard about footprints in the sand. But I wanted to touch base on it. And I think it's such a good poem. So here it goes. Called Footprints in the Sand. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes of his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times across the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest time of his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times of my life, there is only one set of footprints. I don't understand why. When I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During the times of trial and suffering, when you saw only one set of footprints, it is then that I carried you. And I just think it's so beautiful. Even if you aren't religious, even if you don't believe in God, even though it is so beautiful to hold on to something like that though. It might be like it might not even be God. It might be a friend who's just always been there when you needed them the most. It might be your grandparents when you were at your lowest and you'd come to them and they just would embrace you, having that physical embrace. For Wendy, it was God. It was the Lord. It was putting her brokenness at his feet and saying, you either fix me or I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And just having that spiritual of like going into that woman's life of suddenly he got a job and he left you and it just all aligned for you. And one of the things I feel like I should ask you is, why is it that it takes so many tries for someone to leave? Because had that situation not happened where he physically left you, would you have found the strength?
No.
Then
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was already set that if this didn't work out with him, I probably would have continued until he basically was like done with me. And like I said, there was already infidelity, there was already lies, there was already abuse, all of that. So it's just like, I don't know what he would have done, something so big that probably would have led me to the edge of a cliff, if you know what I mean. Because I was already mentally so wrapped around him, so
consumed by him.
And not because he was a great person, great looking, no, but because of all these gaslighting, making me feel like I was the issue. Like, and then, like I said, not experimenting, but living through anxiety, not knowing what it was, trying to process these feelings, confusion, abandonment, neglect. Like, it was just so much, and I thought I was the root of it. I thought I was the problem and the solution. So I feel like
it all just happened.
It all happened the way the way it needed to happen, the way God wanted it to happen. And like I said in my writings, I use this chapter in my life. Like, there's still a lot of things that I am learning to heal through from him, because it was like I said, like I died and came back in that relationship. And I'm still working through those things, but like I said in my writing, like, if I had the choice to go back and rewrite my story and never go through that, I wouldn't. I would go through it again. I would learn from it. I would go through all of those things because I feel like it gave me perspective. I feel like it's made me the person I was. When he met me, I was very naive. Like I said, we grew up with a mentality of you do good, you'll get good. Mm-hmm. I feel like that came from our first foster family. It was very much like, no, si tú haces bien, no te preocupes. Like, if you're doing good, then you shouldn't have to worry about anything, right? If you do good, if you're nice to people, they're going to be nice back to you. And I feel like I was maneuvering the world in that mindset of you be nice and people are going to be nice to you. And if you're not doing anything wrong, then nothing should be going wrong for you, right? Mm-hmm. That relationship was that thing that altered my reality, and what was kind of like a...
Were you just like so sheltered? Like, is that what you're trying to say?
I would just say, like, I was just so naive. I was an easy target. I was very gullible. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't respect myself. I didn't value myself. There was a lot of things that I didn't do, a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, a lot of things that I wouldn't hold myself up to. And I feel like after that relationship, and we're going to talk based on that too, it's not just about how I got out of it, but also like the things that we learned out of it and rewiring our brain. But a lot of that negative story and chapter and era that I went through, like I said, like, it's something that I will always remember, but I will never go back to live that chapter again or entertain that chapter again. And what I mean by entertaining is when I see certain things, certain like characteristics, certain, like, I'm very observant. That's what I'm saying. Like, I would never, like, I would never want to rewrite my story. Leave it how it is, because that has given me the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the mind to understand what is going on in the situation. And I've been through it. I will never, like I said, I died. I came back by the grace of God. Like, I will never, I made a promise to myself. This is one of the healing things that I did in that relationship, because as much as it's important to know how it ended, what happened, not a lot of people have that same ending of the spiritual, of feeling like they have that support. Were you gonna say something?
No, I just agree that a lot of people don't get like this, right? A lot of people, like we talked about it in the first episode, a lot of DB relationships do end up homicide. Is the it tends to be either the abuser takes out the victim, the abuser takes out both him and the victim, or the victim, sadly, because they've been through so much and they think that they're worthless and they don't think that no one will ever love them, and this guy or woman, because women are abusers too, is telling me over and over again that I am worthless, that I am worth nothing, that I will never be anything without them. Sadly, sometimes the victims too take the route of taking themselves out of that equation. So yeah, a lot of people don't get this ending, but it's so important, sister, because without you even realizing, like, you did have, what I hear is that you had a friend who had your best interest at heart, who, like you said, yeah, for some other people it might be harsh, but that's exactly what you needed. You needed that close friend to tell you exactly what it is. Also, you had coping mechanisms without you even realizing. Those two letters that you wrote yourself, that was you starting to realize and connect, like, I'm choosing this and I don't deserve this and this isn't right. So that was a coping mechanism for yourself. And then third, you found something like I said, it doesn't have to be spiritual for everybody. For you, it was spiritual. You really relied on God. It's, we have this conversation where God is the center of, like, everything that we accept. There's a lot of people who think that God is a certain way and there's rules and expectations. That's not how God is in our relationship. But for other people, it could be that close friend that has never left. It could be their grandparents. It could be that teacher. It could be whoever it may be who suddenly you're so broken you turn to, and they're right there to embrace you. And for you, it wasn't a physical person. It was spiritual, but then again, God embraced you. You were talking about how the first foster family.
Yeah, I was talking about how the first foster family, we grew up in that mindset of do good and you'll get good things.
Yeah.
And being in that relationship, like I said, like, it taught me a lot of things. It prepared me for who I am now. But one of the biggest things that I feel like kept me there the longest, even with the writing, even with my friend taking that blindfold off of me, was I was so, because we grew up with that mentality, I was so, like, I feel like that's what fueled me staying there longer, was the thought of, like, well, they said do good and everything will be good, and all I'm doing is pouring into him. Like I said, I was a stay-at-home wife, and I just didn't understand. And I feel like that mindset that they put into our brains of, like, I don't think they ever knew that it would get to this point, like, in my life. Yeah. But it very much did, where that thought process was like, no, like, and if things aren't good, it's because you're not doing a good enough job. Because if you're doing good, then it's like a positive plus a positive equals a positive, right?
Yeah.
But if in my head he's positive and I'm negative, it's not equaling, so I'm the issue.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. But it was that childhood mindset from childhood up into adulthood that failed me, that confused me, and that allowed me to have my reasonings as to why I need to stay here, because I deserve it, because I'm not good enough, because I'm the issue.
So cultural words is what I hear you say. Cultural in the sense that we're both Hispanic. We talked about it last episode. Machismo runs really thick in our culture.
Yeah.
Certain stereotypicals of what's expected in our culture. That's what people need to understand. Sometimes people get into DV relationships because, kind of like what you said, the cultural aspect, that this is what was said to you from a very young age. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. So the cultural aspect that we grew in this, like, mentality, and also seeing just that example, the roles of what a woman should look like and what a man should be like, right? Like, everything is whatever the guy needs, I'm right there.
And the man was never, like, if the man had a request, I would see, like, our foster mom, like, complete it. There were certain things and times where she was, like, she knew that he was wrong when it came to us, like, say he was yelling at us for something we did, and she knew, like, we weren't in the wrong, that it was him. She would often come and be like, pero ya ves, like, but that's your dad, like, but that's your foster dad. So there was never no correcting the male authority. And like I said, that was a foster home that we were in when we were, like, when I was 3 all the way to 12, I would say. Maybe like a year we were with our mom. But other than that, like, I had grew up with that mindset, with that example. And then, like I said, this was my first Hispanic boyfriend. And all of those things, like I said, like, there were certain things that I didn't go through or feel or connect to because, you know, just like I said, whether it's nicknames or just traditions that Hispanics have, that I wasn't dating in that. So it was like there really wasn't that match. But with him, I'm not gonna lie, I felt, and maybe that's why it felt, even though it was so messed up, it still felt like home. Because it was familiar because of the first foster family. I just made that correlation. I think it might have been that, like...
Well, you go... there's studies out there that you go to what feels familiar. Yeah, let's just put it out. That was a great connection. Therapy will do that to you folks. You grew watching your mom in and out of domestic violence relationship. You would think that would scare you, and you had that mindset in episode 5, that first part 1, where you said, I would never see myself in her shoes, but you did.
Say, yeah.
But you did. without you knowing, that felt familiar. Then seeing also right now just the connection of, oh, this is like what I grew up witnessing in my foster home, so this is familiar to me. Like, that's why I'm staying. Like, this is just a normal thing for you. It's just crazy for me to think. One of the things that I also noticed, Wendy, words. What people say to you matters growing up.
Yeah.
And it made such a lasting impact that you went into this relationship having that broken record in your head. It must be that I'm not good because I'm not getting good in return.
Yeah, and it made sense. Like, it was like, okay, like, at that time when we were younger, you know, the whole, like, I mean, we were in middle school, be nice and your classmates will be nice. That's what the extreme was at that time, was, like, classmates and bullying and stuff, like. But I actually took it into the real world, and like I said, like, I maneuvered the world in that way. Like, just be kind to everyone, be nice to everyone, and nothing should ever happen because you're doing good. So why should bad things happen? Dating him, being with him, made me realize I knew the world was dark. I knew that it was evil, but I didn't know how much. I didn't know that there were people out there that see good people and want that light for themselves.
And will do everything in their power to dim your light.
Yeah, it's like they drain you.
Well, misery likes company, right?
Yeah, they drain you for their peace of mind, for their, like, ego boost.
That's just crazy. Let's quickly talk about recognizing the impact of abuse on your brain. Because you went shortly into therapy. And what did you discover in therapy?
Well, shortly, no.
Okay.
I was doing more so healing and, like, shadow work, and that's what I was going to talk about. One of the things that I had did for myself was after that relationship, if you are in one, if you just got out one, even if you haven't, I think this is really good for boundaries. Boundaries I learned in therapy, but this specific part I did on my own. I grabbed a picture of myself when I was younger, like maybe when I was 4 or 5. It's that picture I have in my bathroom. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Okay.
I think I was like 5 or 4. And I grabbed the picture, and after that breakup, I had like a mini venting crying session with myself. I was just crying. And I remembered everything that I had to endure growing up. The situations that wasn't my fault, the cards that were handed to me, and how I dealt with it, and how I persevered through it, how I pushed through it. It was still so unfair. It was still heartbreaking, the situations that we had to face. But like I said, there was no choice. And then I sat with myself. With all the pain that little girl had already been going through, I was like, I chose to continue neglecting you, which was me in that smaller version. And I was like, back then, I didn't have a choice of the things that you went through, but as an adult, I had a choice to continue staying and hurting you, that little girl in me, and I failed you. Once I had that, like, shadow work of, like, this girl that has been through so much, has seen evil things that wasn't her fault, that sat front row to see these things. And, like, that whole saying, like, you only have yourself at the end of the day, like, even me, I neglected myself. That was the clearest way for me to see, like, I didn't even love myself, because if I did, I would have chose myself, and I didn't. And then following that, it made me, realizing that, I'm not gonna lie, like, my healing journey was a little iffy. Once that realization kicked in, I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me where it was like, okay, well, if I do good and I'm supposed to get good isn't happening for me, then why should I even be good? why should I be caring? Why should I look out for others? Why should I be a light? Why should I care if people don't care about me? Over and over, whether that's family, friends, relationships, whatever. It was always taken advantage of. It was always looked over. It was always never enough. So at that point, I was like, then what am I doing? Then why am I even trying? And there was, I want to say maybe it didn't last long. Thank you, Jesus. But it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks of me just like, I didn't care. That was around the time where I was like chain smoking, like my weed. I was like, I never want to love. I don't want to talk to no one. I had hate in me. And hate to me, like, that's how you know that's not even me as a person. Because hate to me, like, now, like, it feels like tar. It feels like weight, heavy weight, nasty, hot weight just on me and just sticky and just tar. Like, and I don't like that feeling. And I was sitting with that for like 2-3 weeks. And then it got to a point where, again, like, not gonna say that I'm perfect and I go to the one upstairs for everything when it's good and when it's bad. And during that time I was distanced. I got back into the word. And that's when I kind of realized, like, that's not me. You know, like, these things, like I said, like, bathing and living in that, that hate, that resentment, that mindset, like, that wasn't pleasing to me. And I was like, there's a reason why this isn't sitting right with me. Do I like it? No, because it took advantage of me, but it is what it is. And I sat with myself and I was like, you know what? There's a reason I have the heart that I have, despite going through all those things that we went through as a kid, the losses, the ups and downs, the hurtful things people say, and then coming out of that relationship. And like I said, like, yeah, I was hurt and I was resentful because of what had happened, and also disappointed in myself for what I allowed to happen to me after I had that sit down with myself. 2 things came into play. One of them, boundaries, is where it got established, where I knew I'm not going to let anyone treat me this way. I'm not going to allow anyone to talk to me any kind of way, to have authority over me. That kicked in. And it was also what's it called? Being okay with being soft. Being okay with being Wendy, the bright sunray, like, I don't know how to describe myself, but being me, like, going outside, hiking, and being curious, and like, just how I am. Like, I would consider myself a very bright person. So to me, it was like, there's a reason that my heart still hasn't died. Like, despite all of this crazy stuff, anyone would have turned bitter. Anyone would have turned bitter in the system, out the system, in that relationship, out the relationship. And the fact that I still had the heart, that I still had that mind, that drive, that, and I still do, like, those are the 2 things that really, like, stood out after that whole dark phase.
Yeah.
In healing.
And a lot of our youths do turn bitter and angry. The world is, like we say time and time again, life sucks, and the world takes advantage of good people, and a lot of our youths do turn very bitter and angry, and they lash out, and they create that mindset of, I don't care. Well, if no one cares about me, then why should I care about anyone? So one of the things that I feel like has helped me in therapy, and I like the fact that you looked at yourself and your inner child. I had gone to this one conference, and I will put up the picture because I took a picture of this illustration that this one foster youth girl had drawn. And if you look at the picture, but I'm going to still describe it in words, she's hugging the younger version of herself. And one of the things that I would highly recommend for everyone who, if you've gone through so much disappointment, hurt, betrayal, you're just feeling like Wendy said, anger, the tar that's crumbling and like tarnishing your heart, and you're feeling bitterness, I would suggest that you grab an old picture of yourself, grab a piece of paper, a pen and paper and write yourself a letter to that younger self. Write yourself a letter of, I just did this actually last night. Write yourself of whatever age that you were hurt the most in. What would that 10-year-old tell you? And what would you tell yourself now? Oftentimes, one of the things is I heard you saying is, I didn't love myself. I didn't think I was good enough. And it all starts by, you need to find your self-worth. You need to realize the gift that you are to this world. You need to realize that people will try and try and try time and time again to dim the light. And it's often because those people didn't heal themselves. They turned to the bitter and anger, and they turned into, well, no one cares about me, so why should I care? Hurt people, right?
Misery
That's the saying.
Company.
And misery loves company. So instead of turning to those people who are clearly hurting and who are clearly don't have the self-worth in themselves, find your self-worth, find what makes you happy. And one of the things that you told me is, whatever age, again, you got hurt at most, or you stopped doing, go start doing that. Start enjoying that.
Oh,
like the coloring, the going on walks, like that is such good advice. Like, start finding joy in things that people took from you.
Yeah.
Don't give the power to people who took things from you.
And that's what I was going to say. If you're going through that situation, it may not be a domestic violence, it may be with a parent, it may be with a friend. Like, think of it like this. They have already found joy in your misery, that by you continuing that, like I said, like in my example, he already got everything. He sucked the life out of me. Everything he already took. The cherry on top would have been him checking in a couple months later, me being either done for, dead, or me being on my butt, like with nothing, still not looking, you know, like still miserable, like, because he already probably has someone else, still doing his money stuff, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're not in that situation, like I said, like, if they have already celebrated your misery by you allowing yourself to stay in that misery, that mindset of, well, this person hurt me, so there's no point in being good if the world hurts me, or I've been hurt over and over and over again, why? You're allowing that person to be like, yes, at the end of it.
And to hold that much power over you.
Because you're neglecting yourself of feeling who you are and being who you are. It's like that cage. It's like a bird knows how to fly, but it's in a cage. By you staying in your misery, you're staying in the cage. You know that you can open it. You know that you can go. You can fly. You have wings. You're able to. But you're selling yourself short. And at the end of the day, it's like, how do I say it? They're still profiting off of your misery, basically.
I like that analogy that you created about the bird. Here's the only thing that I would shift. I like that you said that it's like they put you in a cage. You know you can fly. You know that there's a way out. Here's a bigger perspective. Ready? The cage has been open. So are you going to let yourself be stuck in this cage?
Yeah, because
or are you going to find your way out and not let that cage entrap you the way it's been keeping you trapped for so long?
Because it's a mental thing too, so that makes sense for it being open the whole time. But it is a mental thing because truthfully, you can leave a relationship. You can. Will it get ugly? Yes. But you can leave it. It's just the strings, all the strings attached and all the emotional stuff. But it's always been open. A relationship isn't like, I have a handcuff and he has a handcuff and we're stuck and we lost the key and we're there forever. No, it's not like that. There's free will and we forget that because they take that from us. So I like what you said. Yeah.
So just, I think the main part of this is just beware of, don't allow an individual to have that much power over you.
To continue to have that much power over you.
Wow. That was really good. Let's just touch base on healthy versus unhealthy relationship traits. This could be the last thing that we talk about.
Before that,
Okay.
before we go into that, I just want to say, because we talked about it, I think, last week in the episode 5.
Episode 5?
Yeah.
Which we're wearing the same clothes because we had a film in the same day. But we're saying last week because you will be seeing this last week and then this is this week.
It'll make sense.
Yeah.
But that answer, and this is very important that I reiterate this. What my sister said earlier, or in the last video of, what did you say? A percentage that 9 times out of 10 or something like that they don't change.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that.
That individuals, that some do change, but not all of them.
Okay. In my story, in several stories, he did not change. So even though I went through A, B, and C, and I was getting knocked left and right, and I swallowed that and held that in, all of that was for nothing, because guess what? I am happily away from that situation. I am healing. I got on my feet. I forgot to mention, before we go into that, I got my own place. I started going to school. I started having goals for myself. I went to therapy. I'm learning actively how to heal. I have a plan in motion, goals, like I said, and all of that, he didn't change. What changed was my position that I held myself in. Whether I was going to continue being a victim to this person, or whether I was going to find my strength. And like I said, by the grace of God, I had angels helping me, because if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be. Now I'm out, and now I have X, Y, and Z, and guess what? That person is doing the same thing to someone else. Despite how much you take in, despite that person, a person will never change unless they're willing to, and you cannot force that person. You can't raise that person to do that. You can't be nice and hold all these things down and be the ride or die, because that mentality is very popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you leave when it gets a little bit hard, then what do I expect when it gets extremely hard? There's a line. Abuse, a person that loves you, like you said, will never sit there and isolate you. A person that loves you is going to bring the best out of you. Everything that I said in here, you bring the worst out of me. You ruin my world with your words. You hurt me. That is not love. And that is the answer. If you're sitting there and you're in a situation and you're like, I don't know whether it is, or maybe, yeah, but it's not that bad, or maybe not to that degree, just ask yourself, are you gaining or are you losing more? And if you're losing more, then that is not a place for you. And if you find yourself jeopardizing your happiness, and you find yourself just like drained 9 times out of 10, or living for that person, not having any goals for yourself, but just living for whatever they want to do and what they want, that is a clear indication you got to go. So I just wanted to let that be known, because I feel like, yeah, we can bring awareness to it, but a lot of people, the thing that keeps people in those relationships is the thought of, he'll change, he'll be different.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. She's gone through so much, and for a moment there in that aspect of her life, I thought she was heading down the wrong path. I thought I was seeing Mother 2.0 come to life, and I was wholeheartedly expecting for you to pop out a baby and I would be the one to raise it.
We do have a baby, but no baby. And also referencing the first couple episodes about the Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah.
That's where that correlates to here.
Yeah.
I've had numerous tastes of being on that wall and being like, oh, I can fall back and end up in the same cycle, which I have, or I can Humpty Dumpty falls and get back on the wall.
Yes, but going back to what you just said, yes, she has fallen back into that cycle. Doesn't mean you can't get back up and try.
There you go. I might have a little cracks on me, okay? I might have a couple, bruises, like you said, bruises and scars, and that is very real, in my heart, in my mind, and on my body, physically, all of it. But I was able to get out of it, and I think I'm glad that you reiterated that. I didn't even notice that, but yeah, it's very important for those that are going through that. Just because you might have fallen short doesn't mean that you're completely
stuck.
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of you. And I love the fact that you said a person cannot change unless they want to. No matter how much you love them, forgive them, sacrifice for them, wait for them to wake up. They will not truly change unless they decide to. Real change comes from internal conviction, not pressure, love, guilt, or fear. And when you're feeling that, say this to yourself. It is not my job to fix anyone who's choosing to stay broken. If they wanted to change, they would have already started. Their change is not my burden. My healing is. I want to go to healthy versus unhealthy relationship traits because so many young people do not know what healthy we call them. Now, I'm getting to the age, I'm less than a couple weeks of turning 24, so, oh my goodness. But y'all call them green flags and red flags. So let's talk about the red flags in an unhealthy relationship. You feel anxious, scared, or confused often. True?
Yeah.
Would you feel that way with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Disagreements lead to shouting, threats, or silence.
Yeah, that's not healthy. You should be able, if y'all are two grown adults, or if you guys are adult enough to be in a relationship, which is a responsibility because that's a commitment, you should, I always say this, if you have the mindset of it's the argument, it's me against you in an argument, if me and Daisy were fighting, if it's me against you, that's a negative, toxic way of thinking. It should be it's us against the issue.
Ooh.
This is the issue. Let's find solutions. I'm not here to argue. If I love you and I'm pouring into you, I don't want to see you upset. And that's very important. Please remember, it's you two. You guys love each other. Y'all are here. Y'all are supposed to be side by side. Not to say things don't get rocky, but it should be you guys against the temptation. You guys against the issue. You guys against the whatever it is, the situation. So I agree with that 100%.
Okay. I love that. Boundaries are ignored, mocked, or punished.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? You know what's so crazy? Even after my healing, the way that I've gotten tested about my boundaries and the way that I've been applauded on my boundaries has showed me that there's really different types of people out in this world. I have been, for having boundaries, for upholding myself, for not allowing there to be free range for someone to target me and attack me, and these walls that I've set up, like, I've been told, like, oh, you have too many boundaries, or, oh, do you really think that one's necessary? Or they challenge my boundaries where I'm like, hey, like, I'm not comfortable with this yet. And they'll be like, but we've been together for X, Y, and Z. Or, but I'm your partner now. Or what have you. Like, when they challenge it, not to say just because you make boundaries doesn't mean everyone is going to accept it. And that's what I'm trying to bring.
Yes.
And that's what I said. I've had people applaud and just literally look at me and be like, you're doing too much. Like, sweetheart, humble yourself. And don't do it. Don't do it. Because those are things, that quote where it's like you have yourself at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if someone takes advantage of you, they're out there laughing and celebrating because they got what they want while you're over here feeling lonely and upset because your boundaries were crossed.
Ooh, yeah. Dang, okay.
And then, like I said, the whole applauding, I've had people that tell me, like, I respect you for the way you hold yourself. I respect that you have morals and that you have, you go with your, or not, it's not you go with your word. You stand on your word, and that whole thing, like, stand for something or fall for everything. I believe that's true. And if you have boundaries, you need to stand on them. Even if the world throws stones to try to break those boundaries down, like, you need to stand firm and be like, I know what, and it goes back to the self-love, because I've pushed through that. I'm at the point where it's like, I'm working towards it, but I don't want anything less than what I put out in the world. I give so much, and like I said, like, I pour into people so much that it's like, now I'm okay with you looking at me sideways because I hold myself this way. I'm okay with you getting rejected and your ego getting scratched because I honored myself, my body, and my mind. I don't know where I was going with this, but
you were just giving a full inspirational about boundaries. Which we're gonna have a full episode about boundaries.
Sides to it. There's always gonna be two sides to how people react to it, and you need to be ready for that.
Yep, because guess what? Boundaries are only hard for the people who benefit from you not having any.
Because if they really cared about you, if they really cared about you, they'd be like, you know what? I respect that. Take your space. Or you know what? Yeah, I'm going to fall back. Or I apologize for crossing that boundary. People that, what did you say?
Boundaries are only hard for the people who benefit from you not having any.
And another thing, benefit. Okay, I came up with this quote where it's like, cut the benefit and watch them scatter. What that means is, whatever it is, right? For my relationship, like I said, it was him having a hold of my heart, everything, my finances, everything. As soon as he seen that I took charge of my own, se me fue. He's gone. That's why I said it just ended. It ended how it ended because he saw like he was no longer able to tell me, hey, answer my phone or else baby, you're not here. So what if I don't answer your phone? Then what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yep.
The people who react badly to your boundaries are showing you why you need them. And we're going to have a full episode about boundaries because we struggled so much with boundaries and I put so many boundaries on so many people. So stay tuned for that, for boundaries, because so many people struggle with boundaries.
Yeah.
And again, just to reiterate, boundaries are only hard for the people who benefit from you not having any. So have boundaries.
Please.
Going back to the red flags. You are often dismissed or belittled. One person blames or manipulates.
Yes.
It's always your fault. It's not me. I'm the victim. Not you. Saying no leads to guilt trips or anger.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And no is a complete sentence.
Ooh, say it louder.
Nor is a complete sentence.
Communication feels one-sided or unsafe. There's jealousy, spying, or accusations.
Or insecurities that need to get worked through before getting in a relationship. ASAP, please.
Please. You feel like you're losing yourself. Conflict never gets resolved or just repeats. That is red flags to look for. Your green flags of a healthy relationship. You feel safe and calm emotionally, physically, and I'm going to put mentally. Disagreements are handled with respect. Boundaries are respected. Your opinions and needs matter. Both people take accountability. You're allowed to say no without fear. Communication is open and honest. Trust is earned and maintained. You grow together as individuals. Conflict ends in resolution and repair.
I think I'm ready for a relationship. I'm just kidding. Because not like that, but I check all of them. No, I'm joking.
I'm going to give you different scenarios of an unhealthy relationship scenario and a healthy one. Ready?
Okay.
So this is gaslighting. Oh my goodness, this culture is so, no, not this culture, this society norms, gaslighting is crazy. Sometimes I'm like, I need to be recording because I swear you're making me sound like I'm crazy. What you said last night really hurt me. Them, you're too sensitive. I didn't say that. You're making things up. The result? You start doubting your memory and feel crazy for having emotions. Have you ever felt like gaslit?
Yes. And honestly, I fell for it only because they would also use the fact that I was consuming so much weed, which weed does make you forget. But there were certain things where it's like, nah, I remember you saying that. And they would use that, like, once I'd be like, no, I don't remember, they'd be like, well, you smoke a lot, so. And I was like, oh, but I know I didn't say that. So, yes.
Jealousy and control. Partner A. Why did you like that guy's photo? Are you cheating on me? Partner B. No, he's just a friend. Partner A grabs phone, scrolls through messages without consent, starts yelling. The result? You feel watched, scared, and like you have to hide things to stay safe.
I would say toxic. It became toxic it's healthy to ask, better to assume. Okay? So that part where he's like, hey, like, are you cheating? It's better that you brought it out there instead of internalizing it and then reflecting it in a way that makes your partner confused. Like, why do you have this aggression towards me? But where it turned unhealthy was when he sat there, snatched the phone, and started scrolling. It's healthy if you ask for the phone, but...
Boundaries, right?
Boundaries, yeah.
So ready to give you the positive one for boundaries?
Okay.
Boundaries are honored. You, I'm not comfortable sharing my passwords. Them, that's totally fine. I respect your privacy. The result, you feel respected, not guilty or accused. I feel like we could have a whole, and this is why it's so important that we're going to have a whole separate episode when it comes to boundaries. Because so many people, like we said, struggle with them.
Or don't even know that those exist and that it's okay. Because some people see that as like, oh, well, you're being selfish. Like, or you're entitled because you feel like you're too good enough to deal with this. No, it's just what you're willing to tolerate and what you feel like you deserve to tolerate and the stuff you don't.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited that we debriefed this.
I'm glad that we got like facts.
Yeah.
You know, we kept it interesting with like the scenarios, good examples, so that we can see other examples outside of mine or yours. And we touched a lot of good points that I feel like whether you're in a DV relationship now, whether you got out of one, or whether you know someone, I feel like these two episodes, or this episode, just two different parts, is really gonna help share light to those. Like I said, if you have a friend that is going through it, I hope that my story, the stories that we use here, help you be more kind and generous. We're already going through a hard time. We're already beating ourselves up for being okay with getting the bare minimum. Please be nice, please be encouraging, and if you have been through the situation, don't repeat, don't be that negative, be supportive. If you've been through it, be supportive, be a light, because you've been in that situation before. So with that being said,
one final gentle reminder: you don't have to earn love by shrinking, fixing, or tolerating disrespect. You are worthy of love that feels safe, steady, and kind from the very start. And I'm gonna go back to my notes here just so you can remember. We tied it on episode 1. Oh my goodness, where is it? Real love doesn't hurt, isolate, or control. Remember that. So without further ado, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy, and we're excited for next episode. Stay tuned.
Yes. Bye.